Let's get started to get to the minutes, right? Get that wrapped up. Okay, welcome everybody. This is the meeting of the Town of Rutland Charter Committee for Thursday, October 16th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Thank you all for coming this evening. Look forward to another fun-filled evening here. First up on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 25th meeting. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as have been prepared? We have one motion. Do you have a second?
Wasn't here, I don't think I can.
Oh, yeah.
Leah, okay, Leah seconded. All right, thank you. Any discussion regarding these minutes? The only thing, Ryan, I was just gonna say, there was no. Is there a date? Should we put a date on these things?
I thought I did.
And then I would just change. Remember, we planned for the
we did.
9th. We changed it during the week. So those are the only two things I did.
No problem.
So that's all I had. All in favor of approving the minutes as noted. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any nays?
I just wasn't here.
Okay, you weren't here, okay. Seeing none, motion carries unanimously, one abstain. All right, all right, terrific. Next up on the agenda for this evening is the continued discussion on the town charter. I believe last meeting we left off to discussing the finance committee and their purview and how they fit into the budgetary process. We were discussing that. Attorney Wilson sent out some charters of some different towns that he sent along to us today. Hope some of you had a chance to look at some of those. I made some copies of some of their procedures and kind of boundaries, if you will, for the finance committee. A lot of common themes in those overall, really. I guess that's where we'll pick it up tonight, right, everybody? Is that we had nothing else really hanging, right?
No.
No.
Okay. All right. All right. So,
So, Mr. Chair,
yes.
I don't know where you want to start, but because I don't know, I think I got some bounce backs. I also sent out like a spreadsheet that was like a matrix of how the different charters relate to the draft. So I'm just like confirm, looking around, if everybody received that.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
The spreadsheet.
Did you? Any of you guys see the spreadsheet?
Thank you.
Oh, great, you have it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
I
I
missed.
got that one
You
too.
got that one too? All right, I missed that one.
I can share my screen. I want to just go through that with the
Yeah,
committee.
so,
Sure.
That's on the financial procedure section.
Okay.
I just I'm gonna share the finance section, the finance committee section, for two reasons. I made some changes, so I just wanted to highlight what I changed for the committee, and then there were still some outstanding questions, and they may not be answered tonight, but I just want to sort of keep them on the committee's radar. In terms of changes, and I can tell that I'm being used on a laptop, so it's probably won't be that easy to see, so I'll do the full citation, but let me get to the right place. So, Finance Committee. So in terms of changes, there was it wasn't a question, I guess I was a little concerned about the wording of the appointment and the time period that the select board had to ratify the appointment. So what I added is I added, I think, kind of two changes that were like implicit in the previous language, which is that when the moderator makes an appointment to the finance committee, that the appointment must be filed with the town clerk, and it must be approved by the select board, and then filing with the town clerk starts the 30-day clock for the select board to approve or reject the appointment. So that was really the biggest change there. There already was a filing with the clerk relative to an appointment to fill a vacancy. There's a provision here, section 3.2, that says that the committee can fill a vacancy in its membership if the moderator is unavailable, and that if they do such a thing, then it must be filed with the clerk. With the town clerk. So I kind of just took some of that so that the processes are similar.
Mirrored that, sure.
Across
Yep.
the different appointing places. I made another change. I'm trying to think where it was.
Anthony, while you're looking, if I may,
Yes.
Chris, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to make sure, and I can't read it right now, but sure that it's more of, so maybe it's splitting hairs, but more that it's a ratification than yes, we're seating them or no, we're not seating them, right?
I can change, I use the word approve, but I can change that to ratify in these two places. I will make that change now.
Yeah, right there, yeah, you got it.
Now, one thing that was in the previous language, I guess I can change this, but it says, it does say in two, this was from the original bylaw, two, any appointment rejected by the select board shall constitute a vacancy. That, I didn't make a modification there. Do you want me to change rejected to, I'm trying to think of the right word that would go there, but I think about it. But Lane, that was from the original bylaw, if there's like an issue with that language.
Yeah, no, I think that was okay. I think it was more just kind of that the sense from all the bylaw discussions is that the FinCom is separate from select board, so that's really moderator thing. And it should kind of be an automatic approval from or ratification from select board unless there's something major, right? Like, and then the board could vote to not essentially to reject that appointment. But I think it was trying to push that the language is more of, I hate to say it, more of like a rubber stamp approval than a full out discussion. We don't like this person, we would rather somebody else kind of process, if that makes sense.
No, well, I made the changes now, and I'll circulate this before the next, so it's changing my version, I'll circulate this out to the committee as the
Thank you.
revised version. The only sort of, it's more of a technical change. There's this section here, and the committee discussed it a little bit last meeting. No member, this is of the finance committee, this is 6-2A1. No member may act as a town official. I changed this definition section. There's a definition for town official in the charter, in the definition section, so I just cited to that section. That was the only other. Oh, Michelle, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, can I just ask a question? I know in the original bylaw, they didn't allow anyone on the finance committee to be on any other town committee, not just a town official. So I'm wondering if that section is incorrect. It doesn't, I don't care one way or the other. I'm just saying what the original intent was, that FICOM couldn't be on any other committee, not just as a town official. And section 1.8 doesn't apply, doesn't really sound like it applies to committees. It sounds like it applies to like a paid employee.
Michelle, I actually had a similar thought. I would agree. I mean, I think that would be strong for you. If that's the intent, I actually wasn't very sure about this
Right.
language, but I mean, if that is the intent to say you will not serve the town in any other capacity but serving on this committee, there's definitely some stronger or more clear language that could be used if that's the intent.
If I may, I'm getting ready to walk in, so I'll finish this out here. That has been the intent, is that if you're on FinCom, you don't serve the town in any other capacity. To the point even that they have been resistant to be a designee to another board or committee. If a board or committee, like for charter, if we wanted to have a member of FinCom represented on the charter committee, they felt that they couldn't do that. I think personally that's taking it too far, that if they're working as a designee of the committee on behalf of the committee, in these kind of ad hoc, very specific boards and committees, then there's definitely a role and a need for that. But the feeling had been that FinCom members don't represent the town in any other capacity, whether it's a actual paid employee, another volunteer board or committee, or anything.
So, Lee, if I could just clarify, so they shouldn't serve, the members of the FinCom can't serve as members of other committees, but they can be representative, they can represent the FinCom as a designee on another body, if the body needs, representatives of the select board, the fire, some committees are comprised of representatives of departments or entities, so that's the capacity
sure. I think, currently they don't serve on any other board or committee in any other capacity. But I do think that there's value to having a provision in that they can serve as a designee, as we just talked about, for those, specific requires a FinCom committees may be comprised of a FinCom member or whatever.
Okay, so thank you, that's a good point, Leah, so how does the committee feel about that? Do we agree with Leah's opinion on that?
I
That
mean,
the
if they're
FinCom
just,
should
if
be able
they're
to
giving
represent?
input, yeah, if they're giving input, I don't see why that would be a problem.
You know, in a situation where, whatever the topic may be, but the town select board particularly, or someone, whoever's, you know, feels that that committee needs representation in that, you know, committee decision-making process, that they should be able to feel and should be able to join in that, but not be on the ZBA, but not be on, you know, planning board and other, you know, constant boards, you know.
Well, it's kind of, we have a representative from the select board and from the planning board. It seems,
Yeah.
you know, like, why couldn't you have somebody, you know, from FinCom, you know what I mean? But I don't know, how people.
I think in general, and maybe Anthony can, and Becky can touch more on this, but in general, you want that FinCom to be just this, you know, totally,
Neutral.
thank you, totally neutral body,
Yeah.
you know, monitoring the budget and making sure that the town, you know, that someone, all the townspeople has this representative body to analyze the budget in a fair, equitable way where they have absolutely no interest, you know, in anything else, you know, and it's just pure, it's clean, you know, you don't ever have to suspect something, you know, and so I get that, I'm okay with that, and a lot of other towns seem to have that in their charter, that, you know, these people are just, you know, they're the chosen ones, so to speak, they can't be tainted, you know, and, but, I mean, Leah brings up a good point, if there's a situation that you need someone from the, you know, you almost have to pull in someone that used to be on the FinCom to get that representation, and that's a hard pull sometimes.
Yeah.
But, any other opinions?
Like Darren came, right? Darren came to our meeting and
He did, he came, you know.
he just gave some information.
Yeah,
And
but,
that was
and
it.
he wasn't a member of this committee though,
Right.
you know, so that's something
But
more
that's what,
formal.
like, that was important, so.
Yeah,
Do people, I don't know
Like whether
enough
they
about
be
it.
a guest
Do they
or
want to be on
not.
other committees? I don't know, I don't have the feel enough.
well, you know, I'll be personally honest with you,
Yeah.
I would have loved to have been on the FinCom committee years back, but, you know, being on the ZBA for 20-something years, I just, you know, it's taboo, and I like
Right.
being on the ZBA, so I'm like, I don't want it that bad.
Right.
So I'll just, you know, whatever,
Yeah.
and I really don't think there's any conflict between the
Right.
ZBA and the FinCom. I mean,
Right.
we get no money, you know, we get like $120 budget a year, you know,
Yeah.
so it's not like, but again, you know, respect the process, it is what it
Right.
is.
Yeah.
You know, but that stigma, I mean, that's out there, like, you know, you're either on this or you know,
Yeah.
you're not on anything else if you are, so.
So the question is it okay for them to want to join another committee
I think to allow them
to allow them?
to join
If
an
they-
ad hoc type,
Yeah.
committee
If they,
like what
if
we
they
are.
wanted to, it would be permissible.
yeah,
That's
if the
the
select
question.
board felt it would be, you know, necessary, well, I'm not saying the select board, but, you know, if whoever is rounding up that committee,
Okay.
you know, felt that, you know, that board should be represented, that they shouldn't be penalized not being unable to be represented.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that situation might be, but, you know,
If I may, I
Please.
think there's been some, like, I think there would have been value to having a FinCom representative on this committee. I also think in some of the other iterations, when we've done some budgetary kind of smaller group workshops or whatever, and even I would go back as far as when there was the managed growth study and everything, because there's financial implications, pros and cons for that also.
Yeah.
So to have a designee from FinCom on those types of committees that have a very specific purpose and not just, like a long-standing, just continuing to do business purpose, I think that there's value to ask to be able to have a representative from FinCom there.
I don't know how you define the language, where you draw the line, Leah, right? From,
Yeah.
you know, a committee like this to what you're talking about, to
Yeah.
any other committee. I'm not sure, but thank God we have Anthony and Becker and some of the smarter
Something
people in
to
this
have.
room right here too.
Well,
But,
that's why, like, there's nothing stopping us to, like,
It doesn't
a
mean you
group
have-
from asking,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
hey, can you come and blah, blah, blah.
It doesn't, we're not
You know.
demanding it or commanding it that they
Right,
bring on
right,
other
right.
things. But we're just giving
But
the
it's to
town the
say-
option,
Yeah,
that if it feels it's in the best interest, I think that's the point of view you're trying to make, right? If it's really in the best interest of the town, that they should be allowed to be on that
Mr. Chair.
committee. Yes, please, Anthony.
Not to cut off the discussion, since it's very good, I was just listening, I was just thinking a suggestion, it could be the language could be modified to say that a designee can serve as a non-voting member of another body that allows them to give their opinions on things without being able to weigh in on the final decision. So I'm just throwing that out there as one of the options.
that's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
if they just abstain from voting, then
Yeah.
that way it takes everything,
That way there it's clean.
takes
I
the
like
onus
that.
off of,
I like
yeah.
that. Cause
Yeah.
now they're there just as a, informative, financial person, but we're not telling people how to invest their money, we're just,
Yeah,
you know,
this is what
Yeah.
we do.
okay.
I guess a quick question would be like, say the planning board wants to email FinCom, are they gonna say, I can't reply because I'm compartmentalized enough to, I mean, does the charter really hold them to that standard, or is that open for them to communicate with other boards through?
I don't think there's any issue with them communicating right now,
Yeah,
although I think the majority of their, work is purview of the budget.
yeah.
So I think that's either,
Well,
just
yeah.
from a respectful point of view, it's either the town administrator or the select board,
Yeah.
whoever is
Okay.
giving them to review it, I would imagine they would go back to that entity to with issues. And I knew, reading in some charters, I mean, you bring a good point, Richard, like, all the department heads put their budgets in, and the FinCom looks at those,
Yeah.
and they can ask questions to those people.
Yeah,
Like, hey, Keith, why do you want, $50,000 for this? Like,
yeah.
what's the purpose? What's this? Give me some more information.
Okay.
Because it says in there that you're supposed to put like a writ with it, like why you want that 50,000.
Sure.
And if that wasn't explained enough in depthly, maybe they could ask that question.
Yeah.
And if the town administrator, the select board didn't, the FinCom could, by the time it gets to them, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I do think that's allowed.
Yeah.
But again, it's only on them. I just, if you're only talking finance committee, you're only talking financial matters.
Yeah, yeah,
You know.
cool, just to clarify.
All right, are we good with the non-voting?
Mr. Chair, Michelle has her hand up.
Michelle, go right ahead, please. Thank you.
With
That screen's so
the
small, I
percent-
can't see your hands. They're like little tiny hands.
Yeah.
It's like little Geico guy, It's like,
I had, before we even go any further, I sent Chris an email earlier today, and I don't know if you got it yet, but I thought I'd bring it up before I get taken out. A lot of the other charters that we reviewed don't have a big section like this for finance committee. They have, much like the rest of the committees, they just have blurb, and it goes by the bylaws. So I'm kind of wondering why we're putting this much into our charter for finance committee, instead of just drawing from the bylaws like every other committee has done.
I noticed the same thing in reading some of the charters today, Michelle. There was some of them that really didn't even like how they mentioned them. They just mentioned them in the process, right? That financial process that Anthony was referring to. And this is when they do something. This is when they do something. I kind of envied those towns because I think with our financial situation that's unique to Rutland, and not to every town. Not we're not the only town, but the battle that we go through every year. This budget gets really beat down hard every year, and I think there's a lot that goes back and forth between the people that prepare it, the people that review it, and I think there's been a lot of who does what kind of thing in town. I think that our town has had an issue with what the responsibilities are, and I just think this charter, like some others, I think it's a good idea to explain it in a little bit more in depth. Because there's kind of confusion around it right now, it seems.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's been some bylaws going back and forth over the last couple of years, and
This would like define it.
it's
a
just
little
kind of, it just sets the ground
Clean it up.
rules, And again, from a higher level, we're not trying to get into the weeds and tell everybody what to do and how to hold your pencil at the meeting, but
Yeah.
just to get some guidelines that, and again, when the TA wasn't there, select board asked the finance committee to put the budget together. All right, you know, is that acceptable? Is that something they should be doing? You know, dealing directly with the department heads like the TA would have done? You know, I'm not sure. You know, that's something to kind of figure out in lieu of a TA, who does that budget process? You know, should someone on the select board or, I don't know. I don't know what that answer is, but
The oldest resident.
there you go. There you go. Yeah, it's your job. So,
That's not-
so I think over the years that's
It's same
happened,
things.
and now they've gotten like, hey, some years we do this, some years we don't. Like, and so there's been a lot of back and forth of their job description, and I just think they're somewhat confused, and I think it'll be a little helpful to kind of define it. I don't know, that's my opinion from looking at things from the outside. I've never been on those committees or boards and really don't know all the details. Is everybody comfortable with defining this finance committee like we're doing? Or do we just wanna leave it wide open and put it into a budget process like some charters? I'll ask that question to the committee.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with their, with everything, so line by line is okay for me, you know? But it's up to you guys and what Anthony may suggest and add, and, Leah does more budget stuff, so,
Yeah.
I mean.
Anybody have a particular opinion of it? I think the bylaws kind of directed, and I don't wanna speak for Anthony, but did the bylaws kind of direct you, Anthony, on framing this up?
So what I did for this section, the finance committee section, is I did take what was in the bylaws and just plug them into the charter.
Okay.
I will say that most charters would not put the same level of detail in the charter. The key provisions that would be in the charter would be around the appointment of the memberships, the appointment of the members, and the vacancy, or not the vacancy, the removal of officers, to the extent that there's anything about removal of members. Those would be some key items, and then some of the other things, particularly around, you know, there's this enumerated duty section, those would be appropriate sort of in the bylaws. I put everything in here just so the committee could see everything, and if you wanna keep everything in the charter, I don't think there's anything that's really, that sort of strikes me as being really, something I would say shouldn't be in the bylaws. But I would say that it's like 6-3 and 6-4 are probably, those are things that you're not gonna see in most charters for the finance committee. But again, I don't think I wouldn't say there's anything really terrible about having them in there if that's what the committee wants.
If it's in the bylaw anyway, why don't we just take it out and make the charter smaller?
I was gonna say a little
Sometimes
bit,
more words confuse things,
I was gonna say,
complicates, I mean.
yeah, I was gonna say, because the whole process is new this year, and I think outlining more of the process, the overall process in the charter as far as the appointment, the removal, I would say if we wanna stipulate that they can't serve on any other, board or committee or whatever, kind of the membership, that process point, but then everything else goes maybe to the bylaw because it's a little bit easier as, we continue to work and at some point hopefully have a more stable town administrator.
And we can spell it out in the process.
Right.
You know, their duties, so to speak, and their access. I mean, those things can be just described in the process, Anthony? Is that kind of where you would go with it? That seems to be what I saw, again, to whoever's point it was, I forget, but you know, a lot of charters are that way.
Correct, and I guess there's some things which I highlight just to make sure the committee was aware, even if you took this out, then I think you'd have to go back to the bylaws to update, because it's a little unclear. I highlighted these sections, but it's a little bit unclear as to who submits the budget. Like, it kind of says some different things we get to the financial procedure section, we're gonna spell out that the TA gets the budget to the select board at a certain time, and then it gets to the finance committee at a certain time. So I would have recommended that even if you kept this in, or even if it goes to the bylaws, maybe in your report or something, we just highlight that this, you know, this is kind of, this language would be kind of irrelevant. So, let me make this more simple. So I think it's appropriate to remove 6-3, and it's 6-4 if you want. But to definitely highlight when you produce your report to the community that you probably would want to update this bylaw anyway, because the charter's going to trump it. It's going to lay out finance committee are in that process.
I'm amenable to that.
Agreed.
I think I like that. I think I like and agree with that. And I do agree, you know, the 6.3B,
Shouldn't be submit, it should be present.
I mean, it's part of the process, they just comment on it, right? They advise every article, they don't really, they're not the ones submitting it, right? I mean, it's on the warrant.
They're not submitting it, they're presenting it at town meeting.
Do we have a definition? Like, it's almost like it's just defining what they,
And just so the committee's aware, we're gonna go into the process, right, which,
Yeah.
what the finance committee does when we get to the financial procedure section.
Yep.
So I'm just saying, you know, I think it's, if
Yeah.
you wanna remove this duty section, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I would just say, you know, I've got it highlighted in my notes, just to say, whenever you do your report, to just highlight that bylaw, you know, keeping the bylaws, that bylaw is one that,
All right, so let,
maybe they can delete or something, yeah.
if everybody's comfortable with this right now, you know, with at least maybe 6B, whether we take 6.3 and 6.4 right out, or we just approve to, you know, change some bylaws, but put it in the bylaw, however we do it. Let's go to the next section, 7, because, you know, I think when we get the whole financial procedures down, that's gonna kinda go back and dictate some of those things, so we just kinda review them with that. All right, how does that sound, Anthony? We just move forward with that?
That makes sense, I mean, we should make
Okay.
some notes.
Is everybody good with that in the committee?
Yes.
Michelle online, she's gone? I think oh no, she's there.
She's back.
You good with that, Michelle?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right, yeah, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the procedures, that's really what's at, and then that'll dictate the, you know, what they do and how they do it, and we can back into it. Okay,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I just wanna do one other thing.
yep,
So 6-5 around the minimum, you know, I guess for these appointed volunteer boards, you know, there are charters that do this, but we generally recommend against this level of process with hearings and things of that nature. What I would suggest, and again, the committee doesn't have to do, I'm just suggesting it, is that you give the moderator the authority to remove someone, perhaps with the ratification of the select board mirroring the appointment process. But, you know, generally, I think this level of process is unnecessary for these types of positions. So you don't have to make a decision now, I just was raising that, because we highlighted that in this language, for the committee to think about. But unless you wanna talk about it, I'll go to 7 right now.
you know, let's just discuss this for a brief moment, because is this a newer bylaw? Was this something that was changed recently, does anybody know?
No idea.
The removal was
Yeah.
added, that was.
Was that added within the last 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, that was added with the comprehensive review that we did of.
All the bylaw upgrades, like, so to
Yeah.
speak? Okay, so this was something new. Do you know any of the means behind it, any of the, what drove it, what, you know, how it all, by any chance?
I,
You don't have to answer in a while.
I think that there were concerns that there were members either for various reasons that were on board and committees that weren't, appointed boards and committees that weren't fulfilling their duties. And so there needed to be an avenue to
Okay,
have that as a removal.
so this not showing up, in other words, not carrying their load,
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah, that gets a little tiresome, right?
and I don't know if you recall at the, this past May annual election, we just approved a home rule petition to do recall of elected officials also, because some of that was, if there's an avenue to remove people who are appointed as volunteers, there should be an avenue for town to remove elected officials if there's gross negligence, and
Yep.
there's a
Okay.
process for that also.
Okay. It's getting sporty in Rutland, okay. All righty, don't mess around, they're coming after you. Do your job, you're up the key. You got Bill Belichick running this town right now. Do your job or get off the team. All right,
He's probably
cool.
gonna be out of a job, but I don't think we can offer him the salary.
yeah, no, that's all right. All right, so, something to that nature, we probably wanna leave that in there with the bylaws if it's fairly new, but that's my opinion, but, okay. All right, let's move on to the next, financial procedures, Anthony, if that's good.
Great, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna share the spreadsheet first, cause that will help us finalize, and let me, again, it's probably not gonna look that great on the laptop, but I think most people have this. Let me just orient you through the spreadsheet first from the table. So, on the left-hand side is the current sections of the Rutland draft charter, the financial procedure section, and I also threw in the finance committee, just, for completeness on just this financial picture. Next to those, sort of going vertically, are each of the towns that we are comparing Rutland to, or at least this draft proposal. This is kind of obvious, but I'll just state it anyway. The red sections are places in those communities' charters that don't have the provision, a similar provision to Rutland's. So, for example, they don't define the fiscal year in the Blackstone Charter. And the other thing to sort of note is these light blue sections. Those are parts of those charters that we did not import over into the Rutland draft charter. So tonight, I think one of the things I want to do is kind of go through at a high level. We can,
Okay.
I'll go through the draft language first, but I'll just point out some sections that I didn't move over. Just I didn't think that are covered, I guess, in other sections or not their own section. So, emergency appropriations from Middleton, which I'll pull that up. Well, actually, let me do this. What we'll do is we'll go through the charter, and then I'll go through the parts of other charters that I didn't move over. Just so you can so the things that I sort of eliminated or didn't think was appropriate for the charter for Rutland, and then the committee can decide if it wants to consider those while it considers changes to what I drafted. But that's just as people are looking at the spreadsheet, it helps you find where in the other charters there's similar language. Now, the other important thing to note as you look at the other charters is that a lot of the other charters don't have a cohesive financial procedure section. Again, Blackstone's another good example. They don't have many of the provisions that are in the draft Rutland Charter, and to the extent that they have similar provisions, they're spread out really throughout the charter. So you've got a cohesive budget process. There's a spread out across sections 3 and sections 9, and you'll see that sort of reflected in other charters or pieces of other charters. And again, the ones that I actually pulled, the most extensive ones are Middleton and Ware. They've got sort of your newer, more cohesive, coherent financial procedures sections. So these are all the comparators, but I pulled from what I thought were the best examples of financial procedure sections for this chart. So as you go back and review over these next couple days and weeks, you can just know that those were the primary ones that I pulled from. So I will pull up I'm sorry, before I pull up the actual charter language, any questions on the table, the spreadsheet, just in terms of orienting yourself and understanding it?
I'm good.
No.
Pull up the language. So section 7-1 defines the fiscal year. I pulled what I thought was just the most generic one, that's sort of determined by state law. I actually would suggest modifying this language because in the finance committee section, you've got the finance committee members being their term starting at the beginning of the fiscal year being June 1st. So actually, I'm actually kind of partial to this generic language, but because you've already defined it somewhere else in the charter, the finance committee section, I actually would say that you want to replicate that here. Furthermore, I think maybe you would simplify this section by moving the fiscal year actually to the definitions in the definition section. But you could have, so I'm just putting that out there. But you can keep it here, or we can move it over to the definitions. And I would recommend using the July 1st date that is also in the finance committee section. So that's the fiscal year. I would recommend defining it in the charter, whether it's here or in the definition section, because it's not defined in every charter, but it is defined in what I think are the good ones. And the state law, you're going to align with July 1st anyway, but
Yeah.
because you explicitly stated before, you can state it here.
But you can just say the fiscal year of the town shall start on July 1st or as required by the general laws.
Yeah, and I can make that change. Becca, before I go on from the fiscal year, do you want to say anything just about the
recommend that you do define it in charter somewhere, that it's an important component specifically of the financial section. Cause all, the budget process is aligned with the fiscal year, so you wanna be able to specify what that is.
I have no problem leaving it in here. This other charter I thought was pretty good fiscal, detailed it out. I think this was Sutton or something, I'm not sure who it was. But they have the fiscal year at the top, short and sweet. Just throw July 1st in and leave it as it is?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, let's just throw July 1 in there and then, keep it simple. But let's leave it in there. If you wanna add it to the definitions, I'm fine with that, but let's also leave it in this section too.
Okay. So 7-2, we get into the meat here. This is the start of, we'll go through this methodically. So this is the budget process and the timing of when it starts and who has to do what. So annually, prior to the first day of November, the town administrator shall establish and issue the budget schedule. So, and Becca can sort of chime in here about what this entails, but I'll just lay out generally. So really, any time before the first day of November of, this will be the year before the year in which the budget gets submitted. So for 2026, this will be starting in November 2025. The town administrator is not necessarily putting the budget together at this time, but they're going to put forth a document, policy document to all the department heads and all the impacted agencies that they will be expecting information, on this particular timeline because they're going to be submitting it to select board and so on later on. Before I move on, Becca, do you want to add anything just about what you think about the budget schedule, the importance of that type of policy document?
No, I mean, this is, the budget calendar, the budget schedule sort of sets the stage for the budget process. So it's sort of like the kickoff of the process. So, it's definitely an important step in the process. I think the main decision point for you all is gonna be the timing of that, when that calendar needs to be set. Many charters have this in it. Most towns, whether it's prescribed by charter or not, do this. So it's a common step in the process. I think the big question for you all is, when should that calendar be set? And is it in alignment with other processes related to the financial procedures section? Which we can talk more about as we get there, but I'll just stop there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Becca. So, we're going to come back here, but let me go through the whole process.
Sure.
It's important. Like, Becca made a really good point, is that I think really we're going to want to spend a lot of time and maybe bring people in, is when these things happen. Are they in the right time of the year? Are they the right distance from one another to actually be feasible for Rutland? So I'm going to go down to A1. So, again, that's the gist of A. So the manager or the administrator sends out the schedule, and all the departments have to send their the appropriate documents to the administrator to put together the budget. So we're fast forwarding to now the first Monday in February. In the background, the town administrator will have been receiving the information and using it with the finance team to compile the forward-facing budget, and they will then submit the budget for the next fiscal year to the finance committee for their review and recommendations from the town administrator. Then the finance committee has a month to review the proposed budget and send back their recommendations. Once they send the budget back, then a copy of the budget will be sent to the selectmen, or actually it's changed to the select board, for the first Monday in April. And the other thing, just before I go on to 2, is one of the things to, it's not explicitly stated here, but the assumption is, and Becca, I guess I would like sort of your reaction to it. I don't necessarily think it needs to be spelled out, but this, while it's stated pretty linearly here in the charter, this phase of the process, there can be some back and forth between the finance committee and the town administrator as to this, what's in there and the question that they ask and so forth. This is actually, while the town administrator has made the budget, this is actually thought to be more of an interactive process. two, unless you wanna add something there, Becca, just about that.
Well, the only thing I wanna bring up for the committee's consideration and discussion is whether or not you want to insert the select board into this process at this time. In some communities, the select board receives the budget first, and then they go through a process with the town administrator, and then that budget goes to the finance committee. In some cases, the budget is presented to the select board and the finance committee at the same time. And then in some cases, the budget is presented to the finance committee first and then goes to the select board. So, you know, I don't know, I guess the question is, what is the process now, or is there a process now? And how does it work? And is there anything you want to change about that process? And maybe this could be the place for that to happen. If you want different bodies to sort of become part of the process at different times. So I just wanna raise that as a sort of a point for discussion.
So, thank you, Becky, that's a great point, because I was kinda had the same issue after reading this particular charter. I'm just gonna read this real quick to everybody, because you just got this last one where the departments get it to the TA, TA prepares it, gives it to FinCom, FinCom's got a month to give it back to TA with a copied version to select board. Where this particular town, all the department heads give it to the town accountant. The town accountant has 14 days to get it to the town administrator. Then the town administrator gives it directly to the select board. And then 14 days after that, the TA and the select board members submit the budget to the FinCom committee. So they're the last ones to receive it.
I was gonna say, so it's opposite?
It's totally opposite from what we're doing. Now, Yep.
So I think previously it was FinCom's budget. It was TA and FinCom, and select board was kind of totally removed, just kind of sat as far as placing the articles on the warrant. The iteration of this last year through was the big change that did not work well, and that's where I think I wanted to see some of the other charters to see how other communities do it, because I think the thought process through the bylaw change was that if the TA is responsible for the budget, in the absence of the TA, it's the select board. So then it should be TA and select board transmit, the TA owns the budget, develops the budget with the guidance from select board over.
yeah, the select board's directing them to, they're directing him or her to do the budget, yeah.
Right,
But it's the select board's budget, correct?
Right, yes, and so
Ultimately.
then it's submitted to select board that then once it's submitted to select board and TA transmit to FinCom, is I think how the new bylaw was meant to go. This past year, FinCom didn't want anything to do with it until it was totally finalized, and I think that there needs to be, that's where it got really messy, was because FinCom used to be in charge of it and used to get it and be able to shift everything.
Yeah.
So my other question or pause, I guess, is making sure that it's town administrator, not manager, for all the language in the draft charter, but then also, because we have a May, I think the second Saturday in May town meeting date, making sure that the back dates provide enough time to do all the warrant postings and meetings and everything that we need to do, and I haven't had a chance to do that.
Yeah, I'm writing this little timeline down
Right.
here to kind of follow it all up to that date. So we'll monitor that too. So right now, if I can ask you that, right now, the FinCom and the way these bylaws are set up, the FinCom just looks at this at the end?
Well, so I think the initial.
Or is that what they want to do?
No, I don't think FinCom wants to look at that at the end. I think the way they interpreted the bylaw this past iteration was very much that they wanted nothing to do with the budget until it was finalized, but then they weren't happy with that either. So I think that and that's, like I said, why I wanted to see if it's a bylaw thing, if it's a process thing, how other communities do it. If we are saying that FinCom is very much more of an advisory committee and being able to push back and say this is not cool for our town, versus owning the budget and be in the advisory committee, which is what they had been.
Now, we have a town,
Finance director and town accountant, yes.
town accountant, right? Are they involved in this budget at all?
So we recently have a full-time town accountant, and she's the finance director, and she has been involved, last year she was involved in helping the town administrator develop the budget, and
Yep.
helping department heads if they needed help,
Sure,
or
right,
whatever.
yeah.
She isn't normally the one, she hasn't been the one that's solely responsible for it, she's,
Yep.
you know, she might be the point person to receive information and put it, you know,
Frame it up.
put it together or whatever, but as far as like the hard conversations, cause it's Rutland, right, it's,
Yeah,
that's the TA with the directive from the select board.
okay.
Would that be uncommon not to put an accountant in the charter if you have one? Would that, I mean, I guess that would be a question in that process, I
You
don't
know,
know.
I mean, am I correct in assuming that a town accountant is somewhat your chief financial officer?
I think,
Or is that too strong?
That's,
Yeah,
it sounds like that
Is
way,
that right, Anthony?
That sounds like it
So-
makes more sense.
that way
I would
sounds,
say-
makes way more
I would
sense.
say usually, but I would say the trend is to have a chief of the financial function, a leader of the financial function.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be in the charter. They would be, we wouldn't usually consider that a charter level position. Now, some charters do have them, but that's not sort of the trend that we recommend. I would say that, and Becca feels free to chime here, is that you put the responsibility of the budget in the hands of the town administrator, and they use their financial staff to put it together. But the staff people don't have, they're not the ones held responsible to it in the charter.
Well, I just, you all have already defined the CFO, and that's the town administrator, which is defined in the town administrator section. So, the town administrator is the person responsible for developing the operating budget, and like Anthony said, they can obviously use the resources and the staff they have at their disposal, which would include a town accountant, as well as a treasurer collector, an assessor, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause if you,
I just want to add one other thing. Just you may see in some, it depends on the structure of the community. Like I do see the word sometimes accountant or auditor in the charter, but it's usually in the context of a check and balance because they're meant to sort of check the administration's work, so to speak, in terms of how how the finances have been run or the alignment of the budget with what's been spent. In a town like yourself, there's a provision for the select board to get an independent audit. It doesn't seem like you have like an audit, charter level auditor position. And a lot of towns of your size and structure have the similar thing where the select board will get an independent audit. Going back, did I cut you off, Becca, or were you saying something else?
No, it's a separate, that's a separate role. The independent audit is conducted by a third party that's hired by the select board.
That's for the whole fiscal year, correct, Becca? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, like any business or, institution would have an audit of their financials at the end of the year. But are you saying, Anthony, that there's an audit in the budget process?
No, I was saying because you brought the town accountant.
Yeah.
I'm saying that there's outside of the budget process, you may see the term auditor in some
Yeah.
charters or even the town accountant when they're talking about sort of the check and balance against the administration and how
Yeah.
to make sure that the money's being spent appropriately. Not in this section, but that's where you usually see.
Yeah, I did notice that in these charters is, the auditor, and I believe even ours has something about an audit. Yeah,
if I may, I think
please.
the intent of having the town administrator in name be the chief financial officer was that person is going to use their team, just as you spoke of.
Yeah.
However, that team is designated. Currently, our accountant is our kind of finance director also.
Yep.
But that's not always the case. It could be the assessor is the finance director, but that and having a full-time in-house town assessor and a full-time in-house town accountant are fairly new to Rutland. And so kind of trying to build that finance team, and encouraging, any town administrator is going to work with the big department heads and the finance team
Yep.
in doing the work, just as it's not specific to a budget, but any work that needs to be done. they're
Anything,
gonna work
sure,
with the
any
team.
needs they have through
Right.
the year, absolutely.
So I don't think that we necessarily need to spell it out I agree that I don't think we need to spell out that nitty gritty specifics there.
Yeah, if we have a town accountant and the TA is a CFO, I do not wanna put the town accountant in this process. I
Exactly.
wanna leave that to the TA, cause it's the TA's responsibility. Let him or her use these tools as they deem necessary, right? I don't think we should be spelling that out, and I think, Becca, with her TA experience would say, that's great, who wants to be handcuffed like that, right? You need more use of that, okay.
Makes sense,
Alright, so we're all in agreement of that.
yeah.
We don't want that in there, okay.
Doesn't need to be, yeah.
No, it's getting down too deep, okay.
What town were you reading from with the blurb? Did you have it?
I printed these out, but I just printed out like 3 or 4 towns and I forgot which town each
Okay.
one was.
Yeah.
Because I didn't print the first page, I just
Oh,
printed,
oh,
like, like this is page 18, 16,
Yeah.
16, 17, and 18. I'm like,
Sure.
I'm like, oh, shoot, I think Sutton, I think where, I don't know, boy, I
Okay.
read so many, I don't know.
It's okay,
I
yeah.
don't know.
But
Population
Oh,
wise,
shoot.
but
We
if
don't
it-
wanna
if
do that.
it's- Obviously, if it stood out to you,
Yeah.
then that's good.
This was a very defined process,
Yeah,
which I thought was good, but then I think, is it too much too,
yeah,
Like you said, you don't wanna be handcuffing people and,
yeah.
telling someone how to use their personnel, I don't think that's the place for the charter,
And
know.
to be quite frank, in Rutland especially, I think the staffing positions are not a guarantee.
Hmm.
The number of hours for those staff positions are not absolutely a guarantee. I would hope that we get to
You need that flexibility.
But-
There might not be a town accountant
Right.
this budget process.
Right. Or we might go back to contracting
Yeah.
an
Might have a
assessor
TA.
or
Didn't we
something.
just have that a couple of years ago? Yeah,
Right, we just
Yeah.
added the full-time assessor and full-time accountant
yeah.
recently, so those are, and I would argue that, I personally would argue a town this size and continuing to grow, we
Needs
need
it.
those positions, but
Yeah, that just adds to this whole problem that we're kinda in the middle of
that's,
right now.
I caution just putting that level of detail in,
Yeah.
something
I
where,
agree. Yep, no, I know what you're saying, because many situations, there's not enough people,
right.
you define all these people in positions, and some of these positions aren't filled,
It
you're like,
disappeared or something.
now it
And
creates
the thought
chaos,
change,
and that
yeah,
creates
yeah,
chaos.
change.
Right,
Changes,
and the thought through the bylaw process was in the absence of a TA,
Yep.
it's the select board, and then
Select
the
board.
select board would figure out.
Yep. So the TA's gonna deal with it, manage it, if he or she's not there, select board's gonna deal with it, and they're gonna manage it, that's their responsibilities.
Right, whether it's appointing someone else in that role or
Yep.
dealing with it
So,
ourselves.
so just to throw a hypothetical out there, like, let's say there's no TA, okay? Cause that's the main job, right, and that's the key position, and we do struggle there, so this is a reality for this town. Who does the budget?
I think we defined earlier in the
Select
charter
board.
that the select board will do the budget in the absence of the
Mm-hmm. Okay.
TA, yeah.
Did we allow the select board to delegate to something else, to the town accountant? Or
I think it's
select board.
I think it's inherently there by select board.
by the select board,
Like,
they can do what they
The
want?
function of the select board,
Yep,
we
so an
can-
interim TA, or the town accountant, or the town
Right.
assessor, they could use somebody that's obviously a full-time person there, to pick up that piece of the town administrator's role to complete it, okay?
But it's the 5-member boards,
Should we have something that states they can't have the FinCom do it? Should that be in the charter? Cause if we're in agreement, or if we think that the FinCom is this,
Checks and balances.
check and balance body, should this charter allow them to be sucked into that vacuum, the vacuum that we're talking about we have here often?
right.
Should we prevent that from happening? I'd like to discuss that with you all.
Yes,
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Currently, the FinCom does handle the budget first,
They do.
though, or at least 2 years
Historically, they had, yeah.
2 years prior to that they were, so, I mean, and it doesn't mean that board has the same members in the future. The core they have is pretty consistent, so they kinda know their process and they know how they do it, but obviously in the last 2 years, it changed a little, so, I'm just buffering the 2 year, but,
I mean, is that too restrictive though? I mean, if the select board doesn't have anybody, I mean, what are they gonna do? if there's not an accountant and you don't have a TA, I mean, what do you do?
You just shut it down and try again next year.
Tough week for everybody.
An exit clause,
I mean,
an alternate year.
I mean, I'm just, some of these scenarios are real for this town.
Right, right.
You know, in some of these other towns, these committees have these charters, you could read through them, as I'm reading through them, I can just tell they're affluent enough that these concerns don't even come to their mind.
I know, I'm
You know,
looking
they're
at
not
the
in these
towns, I'm
situations, I'm like, oh
oh,
man,
these
this is
are-
beautiful, you know?
These are pretty nice
I can just
towns.
tell from reading it, they just don't even, this is not even a reality for them to worry about,
Yeah.
the way they've structured this, and
Yeah.
I just,
And I think maybe they also don't have some of the historical
Conflict.
power
yeah, power struggles, yeah,
struggles
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
that Rutland has as a growing, as a.
Which is part of the whole, when there's a vacuum, there's always a power struggle, right? So there's a missing component.
I'm just thinking about that, so keep
Yeah, no, in my heart of hearts, I don't like tainting that,
advisory piece.
yeah, that advisory, yeah, that oversight committee. I mean, that's what they're there for, to be, you know, clean. We're not letting them serve on any other board or committee, you know, I mean, but we're gonna pull them into, you know,
Say, hey, do this, and then check it,
and then check it too while you're at it, like,
Yeah,
I mean, I guess, at that point, they might as well do it, because they're gonna check it anyways, and, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, it's just,
Has the select board
a
ever
double-edged sword.
hired a company to do, is that ever normal?
I've
To
never,
hire-
not that I'm.
You can't afford it.
No, I'm just saying if you guys feel overwhelmed by it, because
They get a
you
budget,
don't
they
have
can't afford
love
professional
to.
staff, do you pull, are you
Can't afford
allowed
to
to
do the
work,
budget, let alone the
I mean,
budget.
I think we could, a select board can do kind of whatever is in,
their power to hire
like, if,
and
I
contract,
don't
I
think
guess.
that it's very common that you hire a consultant to develop your municipal budget, but
Okay.
whether that's reaching out and trying to work with another department head, or years ago, right, before there was a TA, it was a lot of the executive assistant who essentially was doing the function of a TA, but not in name, you know, I think that,
Sure, yeah.
that name can be a whole lot of different things. Or reach out to another you know, a surrounding community and say, hey, select board could reach out to another community and say, hey, can your town administrator or someone help us with
Okay.
our, just, but again, that to me kind of falls at the select board's,
It's still a job you're
Discretion.
supposed to do, yeah.
Discretion, yeah.
right, the
Yeah,
discretion.
okay.
But I personally like the idea of keeping FinCom out of it if we're saying that, but I don't know if that's overstepping, if we're gonna be too restrictive. I haven't read all the other bits and pieces closely of the other
Yeah.
charters closely enough to,
I didn't really see anything in there that said they could or they couldn't do the budget, to be honest with you.
right,
You know, it just, it goes along, and then it lists all these duties, and then, you know, it'll say, you know, like this one here, you know, well, this one's pretty detailed, you know, no later than 14 days. And then, the finance committee shall prepare and present the budget message at the annual town meeting. The budget message shall also be included in the annual town report. You know, the budget message shall explain the budget, both in fiscal terms and terms of work programs, you know, outline the financial policies of the town, fiscal programs, describe features of the budget, indicate the major changes. You know, so this is a more in-depth, it's not just, you know, 30 line items of a budget, it's, you know, the fiscal, you know, this is what we have to spend, this is, you know, this is where we're going this year with our money, this is what we, you know, we're hoping to, this is our income, you know, all these things about income and expenses and over the next coming year. So it's, you know, the impact of that budget and ensuing tax rates and all that, right? You know, one of these one of these charters had that the FinCom, when they get it, they're able to have one town meeting for input. And then it goes back, like, you know.
public information?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find that one. Yeah.
Just while Chris is looking for that, there's a lot of discussion in a lot of communities around, I guess, improving engagement. This is what I'm calling improving engagement with the community around town meeting. And so one of the things that communities have done is do basically a pre-town meeting, one or two, usually held by the finance committee, where they can have more informed discussion around to just inform people what's going on with the budget that will be at the town meeting. And it's we're seeing. I'm not sure if I have information on the results or how that does positively or negatively impact the town meeting, but that's just something that a lot of communities are trying.
And if I may, Anthony, do you find that FinComs are the ones holding those information, those sessions, or is it select board or town administrator? Like how?
The ones I've seen are FinCom or I know I've seen Finance Committee most often, but I feel like I've seen the town administrator or actually the town administrator also having the responsibility.
Okay.
Becca, I don't know if you've got any other information on that or.
Well, that makes sense, the two people in charge of the budget.
No, I
Wow.
think it's typically finance committee that's holding little town meeting, or, select board. I mean, little town meeting, pre-town meeting, it used to be called little town meeting many years ago. That's how they would refer to it, which is just an opportunity to come and have more discussion around articles, on all articles on the warrant, provide more opportunity and time for people to have robust conversations about warrant articles, so that when they come to town meeting, the time isn't sucked up with the discussion, because in theory, they've already had the opportunity to have those conversations and formulate their opinions at little town meeting. And so you come to town meeting ready to just vote yea or nay. That's sort of the thought process.
So with that little town meeting, Becca, you're not really changing any of the articles, they're already set in stone. You're just previewing them to prepare yourself, like you said, just to be able to vote quicker and get through the warrant faster. Because, so let me read this. This is,
It's not good.
the Finance Committee shall conduct at least one public hearing on the proposed budget and provide recommendations to the town manager. So it sounds like it's part of the review process before it gets to what Becca's saying, like it's locked in here, it's, you know. Because at that point, you're not really asking for input, you're just telling them it's the way it is, get used to it.
Yeah.
Warm up to it, because in the 2 weeks you're voting on it, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
It does sound fair to have an open meeting for the public to see the FinCom reply to for example, the select board in lieu of a town administrator. There, instead of have their recommendations maybe go unheard.
yeah, rationale, people do well with rationales.
You know, and
yeah.
so, I mean, that's possibly a good way for them to stay in it, you know, instead of, or at least say, hey, you know, we made a suggestion, if it didn't, no one wanted to do it, it's not on us anymore, you know, it's on someone else.
And one of these even had, you know, which was, I thought was weird, and I agree with you, Keith, one of these even had like, the Finance Committee shall serve in an advisory capacity to the town manager and board of selectmen, which I thought was odd.
Yeah,
I thought that was odd. I thought that, you know, that if they're the ones gonna have the town meeting with the people, they're kinda there to work with the people and get the feedback, like, tell them their opinions of the budget, hear their concerns of the budget, and then, you know, finish off the soup and send it back to the select board and TA and select board, basically, if you,
But I think that's
well,
what that,
that's what they mean by
I
advise,
think
yeah.
that's what that.
We're advising you to
advisory.
Change it, look at it.
when I
and
hear
fix it.
advisory, I feel like you're working under them, like.
Right,
like
right.
You're there to,
The wording of that isn't,
it's a little weird.
yeah,
Yeah, so maybe that's all it is. just weird
advisory
wording.
sounds like they're working together to get it done.
Right, no, and I think it's kind of providing, I read it more as providing feedback from, like, we
Yeah.
know, and whether it's through public information sessions, which I think is the better way to do it, or just historically, like, there's no way we're gonna cut our entire public safety department. Like, I'm using that as hypothetical, you know what I mean, but like,
Yeah.
that kind of piece.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, yeah.
No, you're okay. I guess my small comment would be, you know, it doesn't seem like the calendar's gonna change. Say there's no town administrator in lieu of would be select board, it's still gonna follow the 1 month return you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, unless, cause essentially you're gonna get it, say you don't have a town administrator in November, well, you know you're gonna have to start that. You're gonna have till February to submit it to the finance committee, and then they review it, get it back, you know, so at least that's not gonna, I mean,
process.
isn't affected by who's who's handling the football, I guess, moving it around.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not a big comment, but just.
No, and that, right now, on the first Monday in February, the TA submits the budget, the prepared budget to FinCom,
Yeah.
which I don't think is a bad thing, right?
Mhm.
Get their opinion, and then they've got a month to get it back to the TA and select board, copying the select board at the same time,
Mhm.
back to them with their comments. So you got that 30-day, basically 1 month window, right? To hold a town hearing and hear some, get their input and, so that you could just, they could just make that happen during February sometime. And then get their comments back to them. So it's still back to them.
And that's at the latest, right? Like, I think this year we're trying,
Yeah.
select board and FinCom are trying to get things done earlier.
Yep.
Knowing what the budget situation probably is going to be, so that's defined as an absolute
Drop dead
latest
date, yeah.
right, whereas the conversation with the board and committee is that it should be earlier.
Yeah, and then that calendar, November 1st, that the town administrator puts out, would define those times, and obviously, you would hope that schedule will be, as prudent as possible, and, allow for some slippage to not get too close to these dates, but, okay. All right, so where are we at with this now?
So, we haven't finished this section, but there was some really good discussion around the time, who should get what first.
Okay, keep going.
So, I don't know if you guys want to so right now, the process has it going from the town administrator to the finance committee, then to the select board. But it sounded like you guys might want to switch that around.
No, I don't think we said that. I don't think we really discussed that. Right now, I was just reiterating that, the town administrator gives the budget to the FinCom, and then the FinCom gives it back to the TA and the select board within a month. So that's kind of the same thing what you just said, right? We weren't changing that up, were we?
I didn't think
Or
so.
were we?
No,
I didn't
No.
hear that. I didn't hear that.
I think you were just reading
the way
that
that it
document
was
that
backwards.
Yeah, there might have been some other things I read that were
Right,
different, but,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think,
Well, it's backwards from another town that he was
Yeah.
referring to.
yeah, I think we just plug it in like that.
Yeah.
That open hearing date would be during the finance committee's, 30-day window.
Mhm.
They could get that done then. I mean, I think I like this personally, that, the TA gives it to the FinCom to review. And they get their feedback before this thing gets locked on the warrant, right? I mean, and that's when the public has time to put their input before it's locked on the warrant, to like what we were just reading.
And then the select board doesn't have to do anything about it as long as we have a TA, correct?
Yeah, they're
I
just
mean, they do
overseeing it.
the
Yeah, they're just
yay.
overseeing, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah, making
Okay.
sure it moves along.
but otherwise though, it's the TA and FinCom. But because we don't have a TA right now, do we?
And Leah, correct me if I'm wrong, but
That's where-
We have a TA right now.
Yeah.
Oh, we do,
That's-
okay.
that's interim.
Oh,
it's just the interim.
The interim,
Yeah.
okay.
But if that's a question I want to ask. Does the interim TA do the budget if they're not?
I think that's where I'm
Okay.
getting stuck, like, so are
Yeah,
you
yeah,
guys
okay,
doing it
okay.
now, or is he doing it?
No, I mean, when David was here, David was going to be working on it with
Okay.
obviously guidance from select board, but it's usually TA and
Okay.
the team. An interim TA should be doing essentially the functions of.
Same functions.
Okay.
Functions of a.
This person may need a little more help if they're not as
Okay.
experienced, but like you said, you got the select board, and he's got his other members of the team to rely on, the town accountant and
And a
et
lot
cetera.
of interim TAs are retired town administrators, and so they
Okay.
have experience putting together municipal budgets, they just may not know Rutland community, but TAs that are only staying for a year and a half, 2 years, don't know Rutland community either.
So,
Mhm.
good point.
That is a good point.
Okay, so let's keep going on the timeline, Anthony, if you can.
Okay,
Okay.
Right, we good?
Yeah.
Sorry,
so
one more
TA, finance,
Did I hear that you do want to add language that the finance committee will have a public hearing, like a listening session? Did you want that added in?
Yes, I think so, right?
Yeah.
Are we all in the middle of that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a good kind of a transparent thing,
Yeah.
try to engage the community,
Yeah.
let the people hear it, have their voice heard before this budget's locked down. I don't think it's a bad thing, yeah.
Give us some little town meetings.
That would be cool too.
Mhm.
That's different though.
Yeah.
And they're allowed to meet as much
Well,
or as
because if
little
you
as they
can't make
want,
it,
the
then,
finance.
you know,
That's true.
Yeah,
like
so we'll
they
add
use
that.
your one
So in the time frame, Anthony, when the TA submits the prepared budget to the FinCom on the first Monday in February. The FinCom has it for the month of February, basically, or that 30-day period once they do get it. Then they got to give it back to the TA, and the select board gets a copy. During that 30-day window, they would have their open public meeting session for input. You know, because again, it's not on the warrant yet.
I put a little note, so I'll add that between now and the next.
Okay.
So, I think we talked about, so by the first, Monday, the town administrator will submit the budget to, actually, this should go here. Just putting the note in the right place. Alright. I think, maybe you're reading another chart, but, so we have a section here on the town administrator's budget message. I won't linger too long here, but it just defines some things that should be in the, town administrator's budget message, which is really, just a high-level summary of the budget and really the reasons for its, for why it is the way that it is. Then we have just the explanation of the budget, and that basically covers all these functions of the town. That the town administrator will be responsible for submitting the budget, for presenting the budget at town meeting. And that the budget, will be adopted, just stating the budget will be adopted at the annual town meeting. Which earlier, the annual town meeting, for the spring, will happen on, I think it was the Saturday after the second Monday in May, is what we defined it earlier on in the town meeting section of the charter. So that is about, that should give you about a month from when the select board gets it to when it will appear on the town meeting. So questions there are usually, is that enough time for the select board to review it, print the warrant, for the town meeting? That's usually where the questions are there. I don't know, Beck, do you want to add anything about the timeline or about, that part of the process?
Remind me when your town meeting is, it's in
It's in
May, the second Saturday in May, is that?
Yes.
What's in the charter is what we wrote in the charter when we did the town meeting section. In the charter, I'm pretty sure it's a Saturday after the second Monday in May. That's the way it was defined in the charter. And I think when we talked about that, was reflecting what you guys are currently doing.
Yeah, I think it was in the bylaw, I think it's in the bylaws that way, because I think the bylaws had set, I know the bylaws had set the May town meeting as, and I believe it's usually the, I'm just trying to think of dates, sorry, let me look.
I think May is a weird month too, cause it's 5 weeks.
I was gonna say, that's such a strange way to
Yes,
say
it's the
that.
Saturday preceding the second Monday of May.
So that way it gives
Yeah,
you.
because
That's
the
what we
second
have in our
Monday-
charter right here that we just,
That's such a
Yeah.
Because the second Monday is election day, and they want it the Saturday night before
before the election day.
the municipal election day.
Okay. So,
That, I mean,
The
to me, that
Saturday
feels really quick,
after the
only having a month
No,
to,
preceding the
and I don't recall
second one.
Becca and Anthony, the posting requirements for the warrant, how many days prior it needs to be posted for an annual, is it just 15, or why is 45 in my head for something, is that to call a meeting?
I think under state law, you have to post the warrant, I thought it was 2 weeks, but you probably know better than me.
I think it's 14 days, but some bylaws and charters require a longer posting time to set the warrant.
Right. Yeah, so I think it's the 1 month essentially 1 month prior to town meeting. I guess if we're posting the warrant by the very end of April, because that's generally, that last week of April would be 2 weeks before the town meeting. I don't know, it's,
Well, if there's a lot of back and forth and you only have a meeting every 2 weeks, right? You only have 2 opportunities, unless you post more.
Notice shall be given by posting attested copies of the warrant in at least 5 public places in town, including the town's website, not less than 14 days before the day fixed for such meeting.
Okay,
So that lets you ride it out till.
So what was the timing of that? I'm sorry,
They said you could, well, you can submit a warrant.
it has to be posted 14 days, publicly posted 14 days prior.
prior to the
To
meeting?
town meeting.
Which could be all,
I believe it's 14 business days. No?
So, I mean, the town meeting can't be any quicker than the 9th to the 10th, right, of May?
Yeah.
It's the 10th, so you have those
It's the 9th, yeah.
9th to the 10th, right? I mean, if the second Monday would be the 8th, right? At the earliest, it could be, so that puts you 9th, 10th, so you got 10 days there, plus another 4, they're getting it on April, so you have the 30 days in April, and then another 10 days, you got 40 days there. Deduct 14 from 40, they got 26 days to finalize the budget and get it onto the warrant prior to the 14-day time limit. Alright, is that enough?
I was,
It has to be.
yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
does it make you?
Well,
I feel like-
better?
It's working now, right?
My, where we just said that FinCom would have the public hearing, that's not gonna,
No, that's
that
back in,
wouldn't slow anything up.
that's in, no, when the
That's in-
FinCom has it in 30 days by, like in February,
Yeah,
so they're gonna get, so they have to get it by the first Monday in February, okay?
okay,
So from the TA, so now they've got it in the first Monday in February, the latest,
so,
keep this in mind, these are all the drop dead dates, folks.
yeah,
Now they gotta give it back to the TA by the first Monday in March.
In March,
So in
okay.
that window,
okay,
call it February, right, they can have their,
so March to April, they
March-
can do that, okay,
well, March to, I'm sorry, February to March, they can have their time frame, cause they gotta give their comments back to the TA
oh,
on
oh,
March
so
first.
it's while
Then the
it's being,
TA has to give it to the select board by April first.
okay, so it's while it's being worked on, they're asking for the comments and stuff.
I think that's the best, if we're gonna have a public
Okay.
meeting session, it's
Okay.
when the town can be
So like,
impactful.
wait a minute, now it's, that's
Yeah.
like there, now we're adding meetings to that, like, it doesn't sound like, it sounds like more than enough time, but it's not, there's no such thing as more than enough time, okay,
There's really never enough
Okay.
time to make it happen though.
right, it's poof, all of a sudden it'll be done, so, alright, that's all, I'm like, wait a minute, did we just handcuff?
I don't think so.
Okay, we're not handcuffed, but strangled.
And
a little
now the
bit,
select
but-
board gets
okay.
this budget
Yeah,
44 days, at the latest, 44 days before the town meeting,
okay,
okay?
Yeah.
That's on the quickest of years, and that's if they get it on the drop dead date of April, or that first Monday in April.
mhm,
So,
And if they're in charge of it, they're handling it in March even too. Cause after FinCom hands it over, that's the first
That's what starts it,
March, the
yeah.
town administrator gets it for a month before giving it to select board, so
okay,
they'd have even more time if they were,
that's the latest it can be.
yeah. Seems okay.
mhm,
That Springtown meeting, that has to happen on the second Monday of May, right? That's by law, Mass General law.
I think that's what it was, right?
It's not, I don't believe it's a Mass General law, it's our bylaw, and we put it into the charter.
Yeah,
So-
I think it's what,
We put that into this charter.
Yeah.
all
So
5
there's-
Wachusett towns have elections that.
Yeah, the date is your decision.
Yeah.
It has to be before, the budget, I mean, the state has like the budget deadline of July first.
Correct.
So it has to be before then,
Okay.
but
I was just thinking that for the fall town meeting, we give the select board the leeway
And stuff.
to select dates if needed.
Because I think the fall town meeting in the bylaw originally was considered a special town meeting.
Yes.
And it wasn't a guarantee that we would have one, where since I've been on the board anyway, we've always had a fall town meeting. And so I think we as charter committee decided to call it an additional annual town meeting, because then some business that can only be done at annual town meetings can be done at that.
Yep.
But if there's no need for it to be held, then
Just stuff board says no.
Alright, never mind then, because
I think,
I would rather keep the timeline because it forces people
I think so too.
to get it done.
I think so, and I think,
Yeah.
you know, town administrator, select board, FinCom, nobody really has the authority over this, one of those entities to say you have to do this. So and nor should they in that process. You really don't wanna add pressure to those departments, those groups in that budgetary process. We know it's hot and that's contentious enough. So having this, I think that's a great purpose of this charter.
This
That
is the
we're
pressure.
outlining that, hey, you know
Yeah.
what, this is your drop dead date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it happen, make it happen, make it happen.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, nobody has to say that, it's right here.
Yeah.
The town people told them, make it happen by these dates. So, take some of that, squeeze off, so to speak. Okay. All right, what's next, Anthony?
So, the sort of the last parts here are defining capital planning committee. I know that you.
Oh, excuse me, timeout.
Capital-
I wanna call timeout. Hey, on section 7.2, 2B, the town manager shall be responsible for presenting the budget to the town meeting. In a lot of these other charters, it's the FinCom. And right above it, under the FinComs, I believe, the budget shall provide a complete financial plan. And I believe that, who's doing that financial plan? Is that the FinCom, or is that the TA?
So
They-
that's, oh, sorry.
That'd be the
I think
PA.
what's envisioned there is that the financial plan is part of the budget presentation.
Yeah, it doesn't, so item number 3, the budget process, the budget shall provide a complete financial plan including with a report of the finance committee. So a report by the finance committee for all town funds and activities, and it shall indicate proposed expenditures for both current operations and capital projects during the next fiscal year, detailed by divisions, departments, offices, boards, commissions. So the FinCom's doing this budget financial plan. The town manager is gonna represent the budget to the town, is that appropriate, I guess? I'd love to hear from them, I guess, at some point, right, what they think, who should present it.
so I think that this is a little bit of the language is how it's interpreted, because I think, because it's a town administrator's budget, we're asking FinCom to essentially make their recommendations on it anyway.
On every,
but
yeah.
on every article, but then they also have the right of first amendments,
Okay,
on any budget items, I believe we
Yeah.
talked about that. So if it's, again, I don't know if it's a language thing, cause I think it's common that, I think you're right, I think it's common that FinComs are the ones that like say, this is the budget that is prepared, they're presenting it, it's not their budget, they're presenting it, and then.
yeah, exactly.
And then they're making.
They may disagree with certain things in it, but they're the ones presenting it.
Right.
Good, better, and different, they're
Right.
the ones saying,
Because,
hey, we're here for you, the town people, we're presenting this to you.
yes,
This is the work of everybody, but we're the ones, you know, laying it out in front of you, right? I mean, I don't know.
right, and I think with the encouragement to have FinCom view it holistically also as the impact to current fiscal year as well as projections for upcoming fiscal years and everything also. I don't know.
Becca, do you have any opinion on that? Who should present the budget to the town? Should it be the FinCom, a TA, or what's your opinion on that?
Well, so, I agree with Leah in that the way that the charter is written here, it is the town administrator's budget that is going to town meeting floor. And that fact alone is kind of a big deal. Like, as a manager, you wanna know, am I the one that's gonna get to present the numbers for what I think is best to town meeting, or is it the FinCom's budget? And the way that you've drafted this charter here, it is the town administrator's budget, and FinCom gets to provide recommendations, and they get to provide a review, but ultimately, the number that goes to town meeting floor in the warrant article is the number that is presented by the town administrator. And so, to to me, it makes more sense if it is the town administrator's budget that is being presented, that they have the responsibility to present, you know, the explanation for why they've set the budget the way they did. Now, we did talk about providing finance committee with the right of sort of first amendment on town meeting floor, which is language that is fairly common. We haven't written that here. I think the Plainville charter has some language in it about providing FinCom with the opportunity for first amendment. But, you know, it is the town administrator's budget ultimately that's going to town meeting.
Sure.
The way that this charter's been drafted.
All right, thank you. Value your opinion there, that's very,
Well, could the TA also just say, okay, and I'll defer to FinCom and,
I think if I
like, doesn't
may-
matter how he presents it, you know? Could he just say, take it away, Keith?
If I may,
Yeah.
I think it makes sense because generally, if the town administrator, with the help of department heads or finance or whatever, finance directly, the team, is the one that knows the budget most intimately because they're the ones that have developed it.
Yeah.
And so having the opportunity for them to develop, to present it and speak to it, and then FinCom already makes the recommendations on the warrant articles,
warrant,
but then FinCom also has the opportunity to have conversation, around any points
in those line items.
right,
As they're being discussed on the floor, the FinCom will, one of the members usually speaks to,
right,
you know, why they approve this or don't,
right,
yeah.
right,
So that's a standard right there, that's kind of automatic.
yeah. And I do think, to Becca's point, if we're giving the TA the ownership, as chief financial officer and the ownership of the budget, then whomever has the ownership of the budget, whomever it is, should
Yeah.
be the one that has the opportunity to present it, to actually speak, to speak to why it is what it is.
Sure, yeah.
And,
Defend it and advocate for whatever, yeah.
right, and then if FinCom, and even if select board feels differently, you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
Or and residents, but, yeah.
All right, so we're good with the town manager doing that. Well, good with that, leave that in there?
Just real quick,
Go ahead, Keith.
so that section 3 that you said, the budget shall provide a complete financial plan, including a report by the finance committee, that stays or that becomes?
That stays.
That stays.
Yep.
So they create a report, whether, I guess PDF, I'm not gonna say how they do it, but then, is the town meeting the only time the town, I know there's information sessions that have gone up at select boards done, is that where the finance committee's report gets presented? I guess is it really defined when someone is presenting it? Does it matter?
Well, the report, I believe, is done with the budget.
The budget is the report, is that what you mean?
So when does the budget become like public information?
Yeah,
Prior to the town meeting.
yeah, does it just hit the website? Is that the
Is that,
presentation?
once it's on the article, right? I mean, once it's on the warrant?
I mean, all throughout
About
the
2 weeks,
process,
yeah.
as soon as it's presented to FinCom and is discussed at any, whether it's FinCom or select board, it becomes public.
It's all public, that's true.
Yeah.
So
Right.
through this
And
whole
so-
process, it's a public
So
document.
it's a draft.
Yeah, exactly. But it's finalized by the warrant 14,
Right.
at the latest 14 days before the meeting.
Yeah.
And so I think if I understand correctly, in the way a lot of other communities work is at town meeting, the FinCom often provides, leading up to town meeting, FinCom, once the warrant has been set, FinCom provides a narrative as to their view on the current budget and the upcoming.
And that's this
year.
number 3 that
Okay.
Keith, you're talking about.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
think
was just
so.
curious.
So it's at that time, basically, when the budget's finalized and put
Okay.
on the warrant.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
I think Becca and Anthony, is that kind of, I think in other communities, that's often how things work, is that,
Most warrants have an article that says to hear reports of boards and committees, and it's usually at the beginning of the meeting.
Yep.
And oftentimes, under that warrant article, finance committees will present what's called a state of the town. That's often what they're referred to as, and that is essentially the report of the finance committee for the financial sort of state, and the budget process leading up, to that,
Yep.
to that town meeting and those budget decisions that are gonna be made. So that's the process that I have seen the most often,
And,
and the mechanism by which that happens.
yeah, and I think
just wanna
historically,
add
oh, sorry, go ahead.
This
Anthony.
language in the charter also, just the budget, not the budget, the report of the finance committee is part of the budget package.
Yeah, 4%.
So that's what this 3 is saying, it's saying the budget,
Lord.
it includes the report of the finance committee, so that's the whole packet that is posted and presented 14 days before, that's the whole.
Okay, let me just stop this laptop's gonna die, it's at 4% right now, so if we do lose you online, bear with us, try to get back in, text me. We'll try to get a cord for this right now to put the paddles to this thing and keep us going. We need a defibrillator here for this thing.
Oh, you're a nurse, you
I
can
know,
fix it,
right?
right?
Oh, goodness.
I did my ACLS, I'm good.
I was gonna
I'm up to
say.
date.
Alright, we're getting there, we're on 7-3 now.
Anything medical or
Alright,
computer is above my
but,
pay grade.
Give me medical any day, I'm all set.
I can't
alright,
do
let's
either.
continue at 7-3 while we're still live here. Right, we're good there, we're gonna keep that in there for the TA to do that, alright? And, we'll move along here. Go ahead, Anthony.
Actually, I just, back to raise the point that I realized wasn't there. We can add some language here, I was just double checking, because I thought we put it in the town meeting section, just around the, finance committee having the right of first amendment.
Oh, yeah, the right of first amendment, okay.
So we can write that in. I don't know if it's better to go here or in the town meeting section, but if that's what the body wants to do, we can add that language.
What do you guys feel about that?
I don't know what that means.
I think it should go with.
Right.
Alright, would you
First
explain the
Amendment.
right of first amendment?
Yeah.
A few of us aren't really sure what that is. I believe I know what it is, but let's hear it from him.
Okay.
Let me kick that over to Becca.
Back up, thank you.
Yeah, let me read you the language in the Plainville charter, because I actually think that it's pretty straightforward. So, the way that their language is, they shall, in your case, it would be the town administrator shall present the proposed budget to the town, provided, however, that the finance committee shall be recognized before any other person or committee for the finance committee's recommendations on the budget, number 1, and 2, any amendments that the finance committee deems appropriate. So, number 1, they get to speak publicly about how they voted on that particular article and why. And number 2, they get to provide any amendments to what is in the warrant itself. So if for whatever reason there is disagreement between the executive branch, meaning the select board and the town administrator, and the legislative branch, which in this case is the finance committee as town meeting's representative to the budget process, then they get the opportunity to make that amendment first on the town meeting floor. That's what that language means.
So anybody can produce the amendment, but I think I like this because I think, if someone does wanna make an amendment, it gets done by the finance committee and it doesn't get kicked around the town meeting a million times. You have the leading authority, proposing an amendment. And that's not to say someone else can't make another amendment or make an amendment if they don't make an amendment, but at least if the finance committee feels they should, it gets them out there first. And a lot of times, it's like, you let the leading authorities talk, because sometimes they answer everybody's questions before you open up the floor to questions. So, it's kind of that theory. I like it, gives them the option to do that. Right now, the moderator always asks, the finance committees, so someone always speaks anyways. It's not written, but that's kind of just the way it goes down right at the meeting. I mean,
Yeah, the moderator usually will ask for FinCom's recommendation, favorable or unfavorable, or
Yep.
or no action, I think, or the
you no action, yeah.
and so but oftentimes FinCom doesn't. They'll just say, even if it's an unfavorable recommendation, they don't usually speak as to why it's unfavorable.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And so I think a couple things. I think having the reports and kind of the state of the town is a good push, and I think Austin was trying to get FinCom to do that last year. And then also I think having them have the explicit authority documented, that they have that authority to do the First Amendment is helpful, especially if we're pushing them to be that checks and balances.
That voice for the town. And, they're the most qualified to actually do that first. And again, that doesn't mean people can't do more or other ones or do something if they don't, but, you know, it just
They
gets it
have
out there.
They have the
Alright,
meeting
so
dates.
we all kind of in favor of adding that language?
I think
Yeah.
that's good.
And that was, the way Becca, you had that, I mean, I think that's great, just have Anthony fire that in there, I think that's the way to go, I mean, I don't, you know, and again, Anthony, if you think we should add anything to that, but I think that was pretty well written and pretty directed to the point, as she mentioned.
Yeah, we pull that over, when we make changes from this meeting, that's great, yeah. So, we're coming to the tail end here, so, the capital planning committee, I know that it has we can change the name, I know I think there's a slightly different name in, Rutland, but I just put the structure, I really pulled the structure from, another community, but this provides, a 7-member committee with, members, appointed by the select board, the finance committee, the town treasurer, and the town administrator, as well as, some registered voters. It provides their tasks, what they're gonna do, which is setting a 5-year, capital plan that will be reviewed annually, with the town, with the town meeting. So, let me stop there, see
So,
if there's any questions,
if I may,
comments,
Anthony,
thoughts about this.
we have it's capital improvement planning committee, CIPC, and they have their own bylaw, and it's, the town is very kind of beholden to that bylaw, and it's, the membership's different. I think the kind of overall, I think it's rooted in MGL. I think some of the original founding members of the Rutland CIPC were involved in the MGL CIPC side of things. I'm not 100% sure, but so I just wanna be mindful, we had, in the updated bylaw, I can't remember what the dollar amount threshold was, if you pulled the 25,000 from the town bylaw or not, but I know that was a very, there's people that are very, 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 feel very, very strongly about the existing bylaw.
Leah, can you say the name of the bylaw again?
The Capital Improvement Planning Committee, CIPC.
I'm looking for did you find it?
Replace this language with that. But I do want to put the question. We usually recommend putting the capital planning report in the charter in this finance section. Would you want to keep it as the bylaw? Or would you want to import the bylaw over here? And I can do that between now and the next meeting. I think we would recommend importing it over. But obviously it's the committee's decision.
I mean, I think, I think, sorry, I just wanna,
Pull it over from the bylaw.
Yeah,
was gonna say
I
pull
don't
over.
see why not, I mean, they got some heavy responsibility here, looking at cost above $25,000.
Is that like instead of this, just put the bylaw
Basically.
in that
Correct,
section?
yeah,
instead of
yeah, I
this?
think what Leah's saying, what this doesn't describe how our bylaw has it, so let's, and let's,
Put it
to
in
Anthony's
black and
point,
white.
let's keep this in here, not just
Right.
reference the bylaw, let the bylaw be the be all, but just mimic the bylaw here, and then discuss this here.
So-
Right.
He can prepare this for the next meeting, we can double back and review it,
That's what I was gonna
but
say, how
you know,
long is it?
overall, if it's good, we'll just leave it to the bylaw.
It's
Again, we found our bylaws have been pretty spot on for what we wanna do.
a really long
It's like 20
bylaw, I
pages.
just
But
picked it up.
But to that point, I think there might be some pieces that can remain
We
in
don't-
bylaw,
yeah,
like,
we-
how,
not the
we
whole
don't
thing,
wanna,
but-
like-
Oh,
Yeah, 'cause
okay,
it's
He
five
can just kinda,
sections.
bullet,
Okay.
gotcha,
take the
Okay.
main topic,
Okay,
the main
gotcha.
theme out of this,
Okay,
and place that in there, right?
okay.
oh yeah, cause you don't really need to say who it's like
Okay,
composed of.
let's do that, we can take a look at that the next meeting, we can double back on that one.
And
Seven,
And I will go through and I'll pull out the things that would be relevant for the bylaw.
The highlights.
sure,
Put it in
yeah,
the charter and leave the things that are appropriate for bylaw.
yeah, yep,
But I'll identify
yeah,
them for the
you know how to do that, yeah, he's the master at that, so.
And Anthony, you found it, right? It's chapter 3, article 4 of our
I haven't
bylaws.
looked it up yet, cause I got this, but I will pull it up later. You said chapter 3, section 4?
Yes. Capital Improvement Planning Committee is the title.
I will pull that up. Thank you. So these sections, this next ones are in some what I thought were some of the better charters, but are not at all sort of common, particularly for the cohort that we're looking at. So this first one, the collections and disbursements, this is around basically the paying of the town's bills, essentially. That's sort of the summary of it, without sort of reading the language right, but it's basically, the town administrator, and the board of selectmen, the select board when necessary will, sign off on paying the bills. Is that currently the responsibility of the select board, or has that been delegated to the town administrator currently?
So it's, currently, the select board still approves all the treasury warrants and payrolls. It's a, essentially post, payment approval. And, there's been, I think, many of the town administrators have suggested that it just become that it is delegated to the town administrator, because very few of the select board members are actually reviewing warrants and everything. But currently, that's how it works.
Becca, do you have any opinion on that?
I would recommend to have it delegated to the town administrator, since they're the ones responsible for managing and overseeing the day-to-day, and they are the CFO. So, I don't know, but that's just my opinion, but it's up to the committee ultimately. I mean, in practice, nowadays, in terms of trends, it is pretty uncommon for a board to be involved with signing of the warrants, outside of the town meeting warrant. I'm talking about like payable warrants. That is becoming less and less common, particularly with this sort of transition to professional management. Those particular duties are being delegated to the person responsible for managing the day-to-day operations and or the financial operations of the town.
Yeah, and if I may, Becca, but we're talking about the day-to-day bills here, right? I mean, the electric bills, the basic stuff here that, you gotta pay, right? I mean, it's just gotta,
And currently, the way it's worked pretty much since I've been on the board, is someone will ask the town administrator, or it's been a town administrator, is there anything out of the norm? And if it's like, oh, well, there's a big payment because we had, our school bill came, it's
Sure.
a school payment
those outliers.
warrant, or it was debt, or we are starting this debt, or whatever.
Yeah, we received a bill from last fiscal year, all right, the money's not appropriated this fiscal year, select board, how do you wanna deal with this?
And the board has access to all of the files of everything, that if we wanna go through it, or if there's a question we can ask.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I don't think any of us have the time to sit there and go through page by page by page,
Doesn't
or
make you
the
sure.
knowledge to go through
Yeah.
page by page by page. And so, and currently the way our meeting schedule is, with the way payroll and warrant schedules are, we're essentially approving things just in name only, because everything's already been paid, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like, the run has already happened by the time we have our
so the
meeting.
check run's already been done,
Yeah,
been sent out, mailed out, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're just saying, okay,
right,
But-
right.
what, that's, yeah, the check's in the mail, it's gone
Yeah.
anyway, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think every town administrator that we've had has suggested that it become, that,
take it off your plate,
Yeah, it
leave
sounds
it over
more
here.
efficient, yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It
that
does,
doesn't
I mean,
sound
it's,
efficient at all.
keep your time for staying ahead of this thing, you don't wanna be worrying about what little bills to pay, little tiddly bin things like that, that's crazy. I mean, the day-to-day stuff, you gotta pay it.
Yeah.
You know,
I'd assume
not the fire truck, yeah.
The town administrator at your meetings would.
But even if the town voted on the new copy, the copy comes in, you pay the guy. Right, it's been appropriate, 10 grand for the copy, just give him the check, man, you don't have to get a, but
Yeah.
everybody voted on it, everybody knows about it, just pay the guy, right? I mean, what are you gonna have another conversation about it for?
Yeah.
Talk about a waste of time. Okay, yeah, I like that. So so we just define that to the town manager and pull out all the select board?
yes, I think, based on kind of the trends in municipal government with professional staff and the actual operations in meetings, that's essentially what happens.
We all in favor of that?
Yes.
Yep, okay,
Yeah.
pull all the select board when necessary. Just leave it to the town manager, or administrator, excuse me.
Well, do you need to just keep that just in case?
I'm gonna just pause here and say that you've been through a number of town administrations, you had some time periods where there,
Wasn't.
I guess the seat's been vacant. with
Okay.
the interim here, I guess, is there any concern with at least having the select board be able to fill that role when there's a vacancy, or, well, Beck, I don't know if I'm overthinking, Beck, what would you say to that?
I'm a devil's
In
advocate, that's what I was
the absence of
thinking
a
too.
town administrator, all of the duties of the town administrator automatically become the responsibility of the select board. So.
It would go back on them in their, he or she's absence, you're saying?
That's what Anthony's saying, you know, should you add something here that says, you know, except in the absence of,
Yeah.
you know, the town administrator?
Yeah, in the absence of a town administrator, the select board will resume responsibility.
Yes.
Well, and that's what it was stated though, or the
Yeah.
select board when necessary, that's basically,
Yeah.
that is what it says.
Maybe just
Yeah.
change that around a little bit.
Yeah.
Pull out the when necessary, that's a little more
Well, when
latitude than I
necessary.
think, when the select
I
board
took
feels
that
they're
as-
necessary,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
let's just,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
like
Yeah.
gives the select board a little much latitude to put their nose where they probably shouldn't be,
That's true.
you know?
And even when the town administrator goes on vacation or
Again,
Or-
absence,
absence,
Yeah.
the board often appoints an acting administrator in that role, and that would still, all the functions of that position carry over to the acting or the interim or
Yeah.
whatever, and
Yeah.
so,
I think that's
Yeah.
just some language like that, Anthony, you know what we're trying to, the point, yeah. It's a good idea, I like that, but you know what we're trying to say, we're all in favor of that, right?
Yes.
Alright, great,
Can I just ask one quick one?
sure.
Would that make more sense, Anthony, to go in the select board section?
I was just saying, I think go back and I'll just make sure that the language in the select board section is tight to say that if there's a lapse or if there's no interim or no TA for one reason or another, that all the responsibilities of the
Okay,
EA go to the select board.
okay, so that kind of tightens it up, not just in this case, but in every case,
Yeah.
because that's how it's working in the town anyway.
and can I,
Correct?
if I may, and I think that this is intuitive in municipal government, but maybe not intuitive in when it comes to practice. Can there be language, and maybe the committee doesn't feel this way, can there be language that it's like, in the absence of a town administrator, all the responsibilities of the town administrator fall to the select board or their designees, because that gives the board some latitude. I mean, I think inherently that's there, because as a board, we have that authority to do that. But we've had some challenges in the past where, because it doesn't explicitly say that then people feel that the board needs to hold on to it and can't designate it out.
I can definitely make sure that that's in the tightened up language or designate, no, that makes total sense, yeah.
Thank you. Is the committee okay with that? Just,
I'm fine with that,
Yeah.
okay,
I
yeah,
think
good
these
call.
people read
Yeah,
it
good point.
like, they think,
Oh my
you know.
God.
Well,
Yeah.
people read things the way they want to sometimes, right?
No, I know, but if you don't put it in there, like, if they say there's been lapses in having a TA, and they read it to be as like, well, who's in charge if there's no TA, cause we've had lapses of TAs, you know, so.
It's kind of like auto pen, you know, like everyone's like, who clicked it, you know? But as long as you're allowed to assign it, then
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Does Rutland have an auto pen, Leah? Who's got control of that?
I'm not
All right.
important enough to have an auto.
I know, right?
All right,
Honestly.
6-6 now, right, Anthony?
So now we're in 7-5, I consider this dotting of the Ts, I'm sorry, dotting of the Is, crossing of the Ts, so,
I started reading that.
Becca, feel free to sort of fill the gaps. I'm just gonna kind of summarize it. So basically, the appropriations for any fiscal year, other than cap expenditures, you know, the building of buildings, roads, things of that nature, if they're not expended, totally expended by the end of the fiscal year, basically, you know, the appropriation it disappears, it becomes invalid. So all the money, you know, if there's excess money, it basically goes to free cash. And then with regard to capital expenditures, if none of the funds are expended within 5 years, so if there's, you know, 10,000 in the account or under the appropriation, if none of it has been expended in 5 years, that appropriation, again, it sort of goes away, it lapses. And so this is just saying that within those time periods, those happen. Becca, feel free to add any color onto that. I added this because I think it's sort of a good sort of, like I said, crossing the T's. It's you know, the way appropriations work anyway, but it's, you know, adding it to the chart I think is sort of a good device. But
it's fine, I mean, the piece about the annual appropriations, you know, the operating appropriations is, that's the law. Unless an amount that's been allocated for operations has been expended or encumbered, it goes to fund balance at the close of the fiscal year, which eventually gets certified and becomes free cash. That's law, so there's nothing new there. I think the piece of this that is unique, that can be unique, is the sunset provision for capital expenditure. That's the 5-year sunset term that this places on all capital projects. I think the important thing here is that you specify that any disbursement counts as disbursement to extend that sunset, and the reason I say that is, particularly, you know, in the last several years, you know, from a labor and a market perspective, there have been challenges with respect to getting products off the ground, availability of material. Those things can extend capital projects, and so, you know, 5 sounds like a long time, but it's not really a long time to get a major capital project done, particularly given the circumstance, you know, that sort of the market has been under in the last several years. Just the important piece is any disbursement. So as long as some expenditure has been made, that capital project, then it would not sunset within the 5 years of allocation. And I think that's important.
Poke it with a stick or you're gonna lose it.
Well, and I think that this is huge, because I think we have, in the past, have had special articles funded out of free cash that have just sat, and nobody wants to do anything, like, nobody has done anything with them, but nobody wants to give up that money either, so it just becomes this essentially savings account where nothing's happening.
You can't use it.
So I think in our financial policies, we have that they're supposed to be cleared out at the end of the year. Most of the specials are not capital level dollar amounts.
No.
And Becca, I would assume that there would be an avenue if especially on the capital side, if there was not expenditures within 5 years, but there was plans to in the upcoming, like within kind of that next year, that 6th year, town meeting could vote to extend it or reappropriate it for the same purpose. Is that correct?
So town meeting would have to take that action, because
Yes,
town meeting is the only body that can allocate for funding. So,
Right.
but yes, they could do that.
To essentially vote and say.
So if there was a reason this got held up for 5 or more,
Right,
you'd have that time, obviously, Leah, to know that,
right,
hey, we gotta get this on the warrant and extend it.
right,
So, that'd be appropriate, and that's just
right.
yeah, it's just what you do, yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I like this, and, yeah, okay. Any issues with this, just,
One question, are
Yep.
we defining, capital, what's the dollar threshold for capital? Do we define it anywhere else? Is it that what we're doing? I mean, I know in the CIPC, I believe it's 25,000, is that what
Yes.
we're doing it as, or does it need to be explicitly defined somewhere? Or referenced as what is defined in policy?
I don't think it's, I don't know if I was able to do it successfully. I don't know if we defined it anywhere, we can add it to the definitions.
It's defined in the CIPC bylaw.
And actually, can I make a comment about that definition itself? Because originally that dollar amount had been 10,000, and recently it was boosted up to 25 in bylaw. With
in
the thought-
CIPC.
Yes, because the
I
cost of
think it still
everything.
says 10.
But
10
there was
grand, get you a
actually
McDonald's.
conversation. There was conversation at the time as to whether that dollar amount should even be there, or if it should be referencing policy, because there was conversation as putting it even at 30 or 50,000 because the cost of everything. I think the schools have up to 100,000 or something. So I don't know if we want in a charter that is much more difficult to amend, if we want to specify an actual dollar amount or somehow reference bylaw and or policy that could be more easily amended based on market situations.
Well, I'm no accountant, but I believe a capital project, it's the way you depreciate it. So it's not so much the dollar value,
Well, and that's
but
what
it's
I
how
think,
you're managing it in your accounting.
right, and that's what I think we need to
And I
make
think that's
sure
what I would reference, if I'm correct on that, I'm no PC,
Right.
PCA, or whatever. Yeah, I gotta keep going with these not PCs and CIPCs and everything.
CPA.
Yeah, but CPA, yeah, but, right, isn't that correct?
Yeah, I think so, but also, and that just triggered my thought for the CIPC, putting CIPC in the charter also, as far as defining a hard and fast dollar amount there. Because CIPC vote is definitely a dollar threshold, but.
I did see that in what Anthony had in there was
Yeah.
$25,000.
But
So are you saying you wanna take that out of it to remove that dollar threshold?
I would take the hard and fast dollar threshold out if possible and
Yeah.
reference either a bylaw or a policy
Okay,
that could be more easily amended based on what the market drivers are, right?
and that's in this appropriations thing,
Here
but
they
also,
start that
when
one
Anthony drafts
$2,000.
the CIPC, but, charter section, pull that out, if he can reword that, and just to reference the bylaws
Yeah,
and policies, but
yeah.
not make it so tight in the charter.
And for this lapse of appropriations for that part, somewhere referencing what a definition of capital, but
Yeah.
not link it to a hard and fast dollar amount, and whether it's the way it's funded or debt paid for,
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, certainly too, I mean, when you're referencing 5-year projects or something, that's more of a depreciated capital expense, right?
Right.
It's not your service guy coming to fix a boiler or a heater somewhere, that's, fix the dishwasher in the school and he's gone,
Right.
That's a one-time thing, so.
But I think if we can somehow,
If I may,
Yep, please do.
I'm just, you have the note, sort of go back parts of the CIPC into the current capital planning committee is. I'm having a thought of, to allow that flexibility, and I guess I'm asking a question around what the CIPC does, is if language that says, capital project is determined by the IPC in any given fiscal year, would that be sufficient? Is that a determination that the CIPC makes? In other words, right, they're only looking at capital projects, and so if they determine something's a capital project, would that be an appropriate definition that allows them flexibility without making it too, too strict to be in the charter, rather than hard and fast numbers?
I would agree with that.
I think I need to process a little bit more the CIPC bylaw, because I think it's a dollar amount, but also the life expectancy, purchased and undertaken at intervals of not less than 5 years, has a useful life of at least 5 years, and a total cost in excess of the limit defined in select board financial policies, I believe is how capital is defined in the CIPC, bylaw. So I think something along that language is probably best.
Yeah, so it sounds like, so we probably wouldn't be taking all of that from the bylaw into the charter, so it sounds like referencing, the CIPC bylaw would be the appropriate way to define capital project for this section in the charter.
Yeah,
Does that sound right, Leah?
I think so. I need to process it a little bit, but I think that makes the most sense. I just want there to be some explicit linkage so that we're consistent.
Yeah.
But I like that, I think.
And I don't know that you have to really reference the bylaws. The bylaws are the bylaws. They're gonna still, as long as we're not, adverse to the bylaw, I don't think we really have to do much more than that also. If that gives him more poetic license and flexibility to draft something up,
Right. I just wanted to make sure that we're consistent in what
Yep.
what the definition of capital is, and
Yeah.
trying to not put too much in the charter that may be variable in that sense, because capital has changed a lot over the past.
I mean, $25,000, there's really not a lot that you'd buy less than that you're not gonna,
That has more than a 5-year life.
yeah.
Right.
I mean,
You're talking about a bill you have to pay off over 5 years, is that what you're saying? Or it's a one-time expense that could be 25? Or you appropriate it, but you never spend it, is that? I'm sorry, I'm asking for like a learning lesson on it, but.
it's a little both what you said.
Yeah.
I think, for instance, a fire truck, right? You're gonna drop $250,000 on a fire truck.
Yeah.
That, gets paid out over, you know, over time, let's call it a 5 year, 7 year schedule,
Yeah,
right?
okay,
That asset is gonna last longer than a 5 year, it's not a throwaway,
sure,
you know,
Yeah.
asset, it's something that's, you know, go in the balance sheet and everything like that, so the way you account for that, that's gonna get depreciated over a time frame.
the value of
The
the
value
job.
of it, so again, it's all part of the accounting process that kinda dictates some of this. Now, is there anything, Keith, you know, under 25 grand that you would, you know, depreciate over that amount of time, I just can't think of it, nothing I do in my company like that,
Right.
you know.
And that was a lot of the conversation around, at the bylaw level, was taking that number out entirely and referencing policy, because given, I believe the school number is 100,000.
Yeah.
And so, I think that there's a conversation that at the policy level, you can define that much more easily than having it even at a bylaw level, and definitely not in a charter.
Okay. All right. So does that give you some guidelines, Anthony, to work with?
No, that's very helpful. Yeah, that's very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The last section in this article is the annual audit. So at a high level, at the end of each fiscal year, the select board will contract with an independent auditor to conduct this audit. It's got some stuff in here about the independent what's this public accountant will have no personal or direct interest in the financial affairs of the town other than, you know, doing this work, and that the results will be publicly posted through the clerk's office. So that's the gist of this. So that's the last part of this section. That's the sort of gist of it. I guess here I'd be curious. How is the sort of this end of the year closeout happening now? Is there anything here that might interfere with what may already be working, or adjustments that you guys are seeing on the ground that would make it work better?
How is the audit conducted now? Is it in a timely fashion, Leah? Does it get?
We don't have a yearly, I don't believe, I could be wrong. I don't know for sure that we have a yearly audit, but we do have a semi-regular audit. And I believe in the past, because I was a member that was asked at one point kind of for if I had any concerns or what the financial process was and everything. And I believe that kind of happened in the fall after, everything's submitted to the state for free cash, so I believe the audit's presented, I wanna say maybe to the board in end of calendar year-ish timeframe. I don't know for sure. I'm sorry, my memory sometimes.
I mean, it's certainly good practice to have, you know.
And I could be wrong, we may be doing it a lot more frequently than,
I mean, yearly, you know. I mean,
Right.
obviously,
Right.
you know, closing of your fiscal year, taxes, etc.
I'm looking.
You know, a lot of institutions I'm involved with, boards and things, you know, we don't like to use someone more than, we don't even like to use someone more than 3-4 years in a row, because you don't want them getting too friendly with your CFO.
Right.
You know, after a few years, again, you want that, you know,
That
yeah, exactly, just an objective view where
Yeah.
no one's protecting anybody. And it really helps an institution. Now, we've seen some problems in some places where if you have you know, that CFO, that money manager that's really not all that good at it. And, you know, they can make mistakes. And these auditors stop that before you're 1, 2, 3 year compounding these mistakes. So it's a really good, healthy thing to do financially for I would assume a town or any institution of a budget of this size, to keep the checks and balances and just make sure that the money's, you know, getting accounted and appropriate, right? Again, not just for the TA, but also for that public accounting, how they're, you know, accruing and accounting everything. You know, you want to keep that.
And when
Make sure
you, when
you're
you
on
bid,
track there.
when you bid an auditor, is it, or you said you contract for maybe 3 years, but is it
I would that
expensive?
have to be-
It's a one-time thing, but usually you'll stay with the same auditor, Keith, for like a few years,
Yeah,
okay? Just to,
yeah,
You know,
get
ju-
some time in.
yeah, you know, you
I
know.
lied, we do have yearly audits, online they go back to 2020, so 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24.
Yeah,
And I believe that they're, like I said, I believe that they're kind of presented to the board, I wanna say in like the winter-ish time frame.
and I like this way, at the close of each fiscal year and at such times it may be deemed necessary. Again, deemed necessary. If you have someone in there wrecking your books, all right, you need to bring someone in and straighten it out. And it gives the select board that ability. You know, I've seen that before on some things. Some guys some he or she's can really mess it up pretty good. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've used different, like 2020 was Mendelson, and then 2024 was someone else. So we haven't used. It was Rose.
Becca, do you have any opinions on this?
Would that need to be
On the audit?
stated, or?
I mean, I think the language you have here is fine.
Yeah.
The town does have a financial policy about the annual audit.
Okay.
There is a required annual audit, and the town does have a financial policy that dives into more of the specifics around the audit process, who's responsible, what happens in the event that there are, management concerns that are raised in the audit, et cetera. So the town already has a lot of that detail in its financial policy, which is where it belongs. So I think this language is appropriate in terms of its scope for the charter.
Yeah. And then let that other more defined bylaw deal with it. Yeah, I agree.
And that gives the board the latitude if mid-year something seems fishy or
Yeah.
something to say, hey, we want an audit.
Let's get an
because-
independent review right now.
Right.
You know, something's wrong. You know, where's all the money? You know,
Right.
at this time of the year, you know, we were supposed to have X amount of money, and now, you know.
And I did misspeak, like I said, Becca, it's in our financial policies, but also we have them yearly, and for the ones that we have, there's at least 3 different firms that have that we've used, for the ones that are online. So we're following that best practice as well, as not sticking with the same firm.
I know you want next meeting, 10:30.
Yeah, can everybody do that? 2 weeks from now, 10:30? Sure. Becca and Anthony, your schedules, Michelle, your schedule's good, 10:30 for the next meeting?
Yeah, I'm good, 10:30.
Yeah, I know that works for me, Beck. I don't know what's going on your end. I think that works for us.
Okay,
Yeah, I think 10:30 is fine for me. That's
10:30,
good.
yep. 10:30 at 6:30.
Before you close out, Mr. Chair, I think Michelle had her hand up earlier. I don't know if she still had that.
Oh, thank you, Anthony. Michelle?
No, well, you guys answered it. I was just saying about the financial policies and whatnot, if we were putting an extra burden on the town to do an audit, but that's already something we're doing, so I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's already allocated somewhere in our policy, so we're good.
Yep. Okay, so that's a good run tonight. Close this up right here, right now, please, right? Double duty there, big shout out for Michelle for doing double duty tonight. Doing a little, sitting for the grandbabies and jumping on Zoom with the chart, way to train them up right,
No.
way to bring them up right.
Do we keep them asleep?
No
Get
offense.
involved early, it's great.
Sounds like the title of a kid's book, Charlie in the Charter.
Yeah, we could write a section in there.
That's great, I love it.
Have a wedding, so grandma's got babysitting duties, first
Oh.
babysitting duties. He's 2.5 weeks old.
Oh my
Terrific.
Is it hot there? Cause I see a ceiling fan going, cause it's not hot here.
It was like 87 today.
Oh, no, it's not.
Congratulations,
Wow.
that's awesome.
I missed
I
all
think we
my
cracked
phone
50.
calls.
I know, yeah. It was-
That's great. Looking ahead next, Anthony, I presume you'll send out some information on the next articles?
Yeah, so I'll do the updates and I will send those out. I think we're still closing. I know that there's still some decisions to be made on this and the finance committee.
Yeah, we gotta double back to that, right? Clean that up a little bit. Do you wanna meet tomorrow? Do we wanna do a Zoom tomorrow, you and I?
Got this.
Sorry, that's good. Let me check.
And Anthony and Rebecca, can you send that Excel sheet out that you had?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't
Yeah, I'll send
see-
an invite out for tomorrow
Cause
morning.
that's what I
How
thought,
about 10?
that's what I.
10's fine, yeah, 9, 10, whatever you want, I'm open all morning,
That's what I thought.
okay? And if you can resend that Excel spreadsheet out on the different town charters, cause Leo and I didn't get that.
All right, I'll send that out.
Yeah, that'd be great. Shoot that out again, please.
Yeah.
Anything else?
The next section after this would be the administrative organization section. It's usually pretty small, but I can have that ready if we get to it at the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get that, we'll go over that, and then we'll double back on the FinCom, clean that up. I think it's good going through the whole budget process, and then we can kinda tidy that up. What's that?
Not to, because time flies, so just to put it back on the committee's radar is, I think we're going into the time period where you're talking about doing your second public session, public hearing session. I think you guys talked about end of October, November-ish.
Okay.
This was several months ago when you talked about a second
Oh.
public session.
Yeah.
I think that's what the committee does, so I'm just re-raising it,
Yep.
as something that's fast approaching.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You do wanna do it before the holidays, right?
Or,
Yeah.
yeah, I think either before the holidays or, we have special town meeting, fall town meeting will
Let's-
be the
yeah.
Thursday before Thanksgiving, so
Yeah.
if we wanna do it after that, before kind of the end of December,
Yeah,
like the December
like
holidays.
very early December, you're saying?
Yeah, if, that way we can
Yeah.
use fall town meeting as like a, public
Public
publicity.
pulpit,
Well, yeah.
pulpit, yeah, to-
Publicity,
sure, yeah, I forgot any way to.
just for considering, I don't, you
Yeah,
know.
no, and we'll make that an item for next week, next meeting's agenda. Like I say, if we can get through the majority of this stuff, then we'll have a pretty good grasp on where we're at, and then we can start really
Yeah.
homing into the finish line here.
And I think maybe, I tried to make notes, but when I look at the whole comprehensive document with edits, any areas that we have made significant changes, just to highlight, because we want people to have the opportunity to ask questions, for why we're proposing those changes, so that it's not a hindrance to approval, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I'd rather be very forthcoming with anything that we
Yep.
are.
Yeah, show off the yellow.
It is a real good point, because we rushed that survey, so we'll have more time for that, collect some data, bring them in, go through that same process, but just do it a little more appropriately, a little more professionally, so to speak. Hopefully get better feedback and better data to discuss and review and go over with the townspeople. Okay, so anything else, anybody? Well, thank you all very much, it was a very productive meeting. Michelle, enjoy, have a blast. Thanks for all your efforts, everybody.
Motion to adjourn?
Liam?
All right, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? None? Unanimous? It's over. Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Please, you get how little they are.
Rockin' and rolling there, rockin' and rolling.
So cute. Oh my God, you're so cute.
Oh, in that hand.
Charlie and the Charter
Charlie.
Committee.
Now, did you wake him up?
Yeah, he's like, look at it, look at it.
Here I am.
So funny.
So cute.
We have to say Charlie, we have to pronounce the R.
Oh, not like a Massachusetts accent.
Charlie.
Charlie, check it in.
All right.
My brother's name was Charlie.
It's not
and they-
Charlie.
Charlie.
Yeah.
It's too bad, it's too bad you're
Charlie
saying it
from
wrong.
Boston.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's like when people would call me
By
Good night.
Barb. It sounded like Bob, because it'd be like Bob.
Barbara. It is, it's freezing in here. Oh, good night, everyone.
And then I don't think I have an accent.
I'm like, it smells like sweaty, stinky feet, and I'm freezing.
Does he come back in
Yeah,
and
he's
shut all this?
gonna have to,
I'll leave the light on for him.
I don't know